What's always been a gripe for me in programming is the fact that you can have things in your code, and those things don't really have to map to anything logically, only on the computer side, and that is absolutely valid for languages that are not high level and dynamic. But when a language doesn't correspond directly to assembly, at least you can't reason about it in assembly. I know C is not like that anymore, but you can think about it in assembly. It is just not possible. So let's say let A equals all of this, and this is one expression, and you mesh against an expression result, and then you have a pattern, and then this expression is a binary, so this binary enters the scope, and then this expression is performed, right? And then it returns either true or false, and if it's true, this thing is executed, and this is executed. Well, this is first, and this is second, right? And then this is the same for every single match arm, right? So this is a wildcard, so a binding, right? And you can think of it that way, and then this whole thing is an expression as well, right? So you can do let b equals let a equals this. While in C, for example, you would have to do let res equals okay, let's say, and then let a equals let a just undefined, and then switch on res, right? And then case okay a equals -1, and then case error equals a equals -2. Whatever this, that means things. That means things on the computer level. That only means things on the computer level. But the behavior is not that local, right? Because you do res, which is this, right? So get data server 1. Let's do get data server 1, and then you do an A, and then you all of this, and then you just do side effects to assign to A. And this is not local at all, right? You make multiple assignments. You don't want to do that. Obviously you can just embed it directly. You can inline this. But a lot of this can be done just like this. Just like this. This is why I've always gravitated towards more functional programming languages, and this is why I design my language this way. So you can go further. You can talk about Lua, because I love Lua. I love Lua. Lua is probably one of my, if not the single most favorite language of my life. But yeah, you define a function, and where that ends up is not important, which is one of those things. All the functions in this language are anonymous, just like this. And you have an end block, you have an end token that corresponds to the function, and then you have an if statement, and then that has a corresponding end block. And that is just not as logical as I would have in my language, right? Because const f is a pen, and this returns a function, right? Because you make a function, and then you have a do block, and the do block, what it does is so I've already split this by parents, but you have a list of expressions, right? And I just put a comma in here. You don't really need commas, and you just do them, right? And then you return the expression that has a return, or that has an explicit return, or that is the last implicitly, right? So if I didn't have this, it would be just fine. It would be just fine. And then you can put the blocks inside of this. So what this leads to is a bunch of logical implications, just like this. Append self 2, right? Because 2 is just as much of an expression as do and is. And this blocks for anything ever. Do and end blocks are purely functional, right? Purely functional isn't like they purely perform something. They always mean something directly, and that's why I prefer this syntax to this one. It's just a lot easier to reason about, right? And if statement is just this, right? If expression, and else expression, let's say, but whatever these, all of this, and then you can put this in a do end block as well. I don't know. This is just so much easier and so much more logical to me, and this only exists in functional languages, really. I don't know why that is. I do not know why that is, but I love this so much because when you want to do something, when you want to explore a new feature, it already follows this pattern. It already follows the pattern semantically. So const user is a struct, and struct is just a wraparound. So this is special syntax. It's not the best example, but this is just sugar around the function, right? And then this gives you a function, which returns a function, and the function is the actual constructor. So user is going to be a function for creating a user with all of those fields, and it's going to type check them dynamically at creation time. Probably not the best thing ever. Probably I will add actual real type in at some point, but that is a lot of work for me. I'm a first year computer IT student, so that's how it is. And you just know what it is. You just know what it is. And the same applies to everything, always. It is just so many implied rules that are easy to understand. Dude, I love this so much. And set meta is a function, right? You set a meta table if you're familiar with Lua, right? So you can override some built-in operators. So like plus is overridden by this, and it actually executes a function on self and then the other, and then returns up, and then that's going to be the result of the plus operation. And same for index right here, and same for new index right here. I should probably stop using the keyboard so much because it makes some noise that gets picked up by the microphone. And the same for toString, and whatever. And then the second thing gets indexed here. There's the property of the meta table specifically in my language. And then index is going to be the third thing when you try to index. So if 12 doesn't exist, it checks if this has a 12, and if it doesn't, it checks what index returns and whether you have index, and else you just return undefined, right? So it's an atom. It's an atom of undefined, which has significant meaning, actually. Wait, am I ready to move on? I think I am ready to move on. Let's go. So macro, I'm gonna talk about macros a little bit later on, but let me go into memory dosing right here, right? So a type, you have those are all of the types that are built in. Energy and a float, I'll probably merge them into one number, right? Because I will want to do big ins later on. And then a string, an atom, a function, a table, and a tuple. So what you might have noticed here is that I don't have any type for nil or boolean. You know why? Because true, false, and then nil. They can all be perfectly replicated. And I prefer not to have nil, as in there's almost no nil, unless it's absolutely necessary. You just don't return nil. If you want to get a table, a key from a table that doesn't exist, you just do undefined, right? Because that makes more sense than nil, and that's what I've always like found weird with Lua, right? When you iterate of a table, if you hit nil, the iteration stops, right? Because when the key doesn't exist, it's nil, right? Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. And here that just does not exist. It just does not exist. Well, for different reasons it doesn't exist. But if it was implemented the same way, it would exist for those reasons, right? And with understanding what meta tables are, you can understand how unwrap exists. It's just a meta method on it's just unwrap is part of a meta table on any tuple by default. So a meta table can be attached to any type ever, any object ever, and then they're like automatically assigned to anything that you do with like the modified ones. If you do copy on the table or copy on the tuple, you know how it is. You know how it is. So yeah, dude, I love this so much. And the fact that, I want to add a new feature. I want to add comp time. So a comp time is a prefix to an expression. And that means that it's hoisted before everything else, right? So let's do import something, and then the comp time statements are going to be right after imports, right? So whatever, const x equals comp time block do end, well, not a block, comp time expression, right? And the syntax is already implied. You just know that you prefix anything with comp time, and then that means it's like up there, it's hoisted. And then you can do like map dot pow, whatever is oh, this is so bad, pow to like the 80th, right? And that also implies that since you have a do block here, it's an expression, so you can just put an expression directly there, right? And that also means you can put if true, then and no else, whatever is no what does not then if true then this, you can do that, and it's applied. Dude, I love this so much. I don't know, this figures so much stuff out by itself. It's like automatic. I didn't intend many of the I didn't intend structs when adding meta tables, but they just do like get implied immediately. Dude, this is the future. I don't know, man. I love this. I love this honestly. And yeah, obviously, you can substitute this for whatever the result of math power is when you reason about it. I don't know. But yeah. Thank you for listening. I really hope that this is like 1 week away from being like actually done at the fundamental level. I hope that everybody gets to check this out and give me some feedback. Like at least at this stage, I can change stuff when nobody uses this. If anybody actually does like it and start using, I might be a little more hesitant to change stuff. So yeah, you can give me any feedback. Give me your reasoning to why the feedback is good, and yeah, thank you.